So I've had my Galaxy Watch 7 since launch just over a year ago, and boy, have I got some things to tell you. So the first thing I want to talk about is the Android experience. This watch, of course, runs Wear OS software. And honestly, that is absolutely fantastic. Wear OS is really, really good. Some things I like in particular, notification syncing. I like that if I get rid of it on my watch, it's also got rid of it on my phone. I know not everyone will like that, and there isn't an option to disable that syncing, but I really like that. You know, if I've just been off my phone for a few hours, I look at watch, I might have 7 notifications. I can probably just swipe away 4 of them, and I won't have to deal with them on my phone separately. That's really nice. Obviously, it's also nice and customizable. You've got the sort of widgets on the home screen. I can't remember what they call those, but you can customize those. Obviously, you can put things into folders as well. So I have a kind of a guff folder there, which has got random stuff that I don't care about. You've got the usual Android thing down the bottom. You can also customize all your double taps and stuff to bring up whatever you want. So beautifully customizable, just like you expect with Android. It also, of course, being Android, comes with Google Pay, Google Maps, Google Home, which is all right, it's improving. You can control lights and stuff now. It's slowly getting there, but it's nice to have it at least. Google Gemini AI, that's actually quite a big one. It's really nice just to be able to press and hold a button on my watch, and then boom, I've got instant access to Assistant. For example, I haven't got a Google speaker in my office, so if I say stop playing on bedroom speaker, it will stop playing on the bedroom speaker. That's a really nice feature to have. And of course, it's got the Google Play Store, a huge one. So some of the apps that I use, YouTube Music, not available on most platforms. Most people use Spotify, so that's really nice. Audible is quite a nice one to have. Pulsoid is an interesting one. I actually use that for heart rate tracking during streaming, one that's not available on all watches. Google Keep Notes is quite nice to have access to easily just see if you're shopping or something, you can see your notes and tick them off. The Parkrun app, it's not the official Parkrun app, but there's an app you can get which has got your Parkrun barcode on, so I don't need to worry about bringing the little token. And WhatsApp should be an amazing one, but actually I don't use WhatsApp. I found it quite weird. Basically, if you don't use it for a while, you then go on after, say, a few weeks, and what it will do is it will download all of your messages one by one, starting with the oldest message. So you literally go on WhatsApp, but it's just like downloading loads and loads. It's stupid. So I literally don't use it for that alone, but it's quite a nice option to have. So you can do things like send voice notes from your wrist and stuff like that. I like the idea of it, just the execution is a little bit off. Maybe they've improved it in the last few months. Getting on to the hardware then of the watch. First of all, it's in great condition, honestly. I've been wearing this every single day for about 14 months now. I don't wear it at night, but obviously it's unlikely to get damaged at night. But, you know, just anything I'm doing, I just always wear it. It always gets banged and knocked and stuff. And actually, to be honest, it looks like it's probably only like a month old. It's got a couple of little tiny scuffs here and there, but for the most part, it's in very, very good condition. So clearly build quality is pretty good. The strap is also still going strong. I mentioned that because my old watch, the Galaxy Watch 4, the actual strap broke. If I recall correctly, it was one of these little bits here that broke, and then this bit just broke off, and that was it. The strap was no good. I contacted Samsung support. They just sort of shrugged and went, it's a watch strap, and weren't willing to replace it. So I had to get a third-party replacement. That kind of sucked, but clearly they've improved it because I've had 0 problems at all with this watch, taking it on and off every single day as I don't wear it at night. And also, honestly, I think the design's quite nice. I still think it looks like a nice, modern, well-designed watch. It's one of the thinner watches on the market, just under 10 mil. A lot of watches are about 12 mil. So that's quite nice, similar thickness to the Apple Watch, I believe. I would prefer a square option, Samsung, honestly. Personally, that's very much a personal preference thing, but the circle is fine. I think it looks nice, especially if you get a third-party watch strap on it. I think it's a nicely designed watch, so I'm happy to wear it wherever I am. Now, this is also the 4G version, which is my first foray into 4G mobile internet connected smartwatches. And honestly, I think that's been well worth it. It is quite expensive, the monthly fee. Normally they charge, I think it's like £10 a month more just to have a bit of data on your watch, which seems outrageous. It's not like you can watch video on it, but you know, I got a deal that comes with it, so that's not too bad. But honestly, it's been well worth having the 4G. It's been actually surpassed my expectations of the usefulness of it. For example, a few things I use it for. It's nice to be able to play any song. You don't have to be limited to whatever you've got downloaded. You can use Google Gemini, say play Red Hot Chili Peppers, and it will just play the Red Hot Chili Peppers if you've got signal. It's nice to be able to use Gemini AI when you're out and about away from your phone. In particular, I'm talking about running here. I don't take my phone when I run. So I can just ask a random question or Google something or whatever I want to do, whatever's in my mind when I'm running, I've got full access to the internet and Google. It's nice to get notifications and calls when you're out and about. You know, if my wife needs to call me because, I don't know, the house is burning down, I need to get back ASAP or something stupid, I absolutely can receive those calls. Also WhatsApp messages or whatever notifications, as long as your phone's also got internet wherever it is. And obviously Google Maps is nice to have when you're out and about. You can just, if you unexpectedly get lost, you can go on Google Maps, it'll load the map and you can just figure out where you are. So it's nice if you get lost. And of course, the big one, peace of mind. If I ever have an emergency, as I said, I go running without my phone. So if I didn't have a 4G on my watch, I'd have no connection. If I'm in the middle of nowhere and I fall over and break my leg, what the hell do I do? You just have to hope somebody comes past or crawl to a road or something. It sounds awful. Obviously, with this nice peace of mind, I can call emergency services or my wife or whoever I need to call if something goes wrong. So that is the huge one. And for me, I'm not going to say I wouldn't live without 4G on watches in the future, because I mean, the Google Watch in particular, the Pixel Watch is like a lot more for the 4G version and the extra monthly cost. But if you do go running quite a bit, especially for longer runs, middle of nowhere, and you don't want to bring your phone, 4G is very, very useful and it works really nicely on this watch. But speaking of 4G, the battery life. It definitely rinses the battery life a bit. But I must say, before we get into that, overall, battery life has been fantastic on this thing. Normally, I wear it all day. As I said, I do charge it overnight. So I start every day with 100% charge. I go to bed and I've normally still got 80% battery, genuinely. I can normally relatively comfortably make it 2 days, not really 3, but as long as I don't use it too much and use loads of GPS and stuff, I'm normally fine. Just to give you an idea, today I went for a 30-minute run, right? No phone with me, so the phone was connected to 4G, had my headphones in, connected via Bluetooth, using that 4G to stream the music. I didn't have anything downloaded on the watch. So that's about as much battery use as you can possibly get. And I've got 70% battery left right now, so it will very comfortably make it through the rest of the day. I'm never worried about battery life on this watch ever. The only issue you may find though is if you do go for a very long run with 4G and music, that's about as hard as I've ran it. Just to give you some numbers, for example, I found that without doing anything, you use about 1% per hour. That adds up to it being about 20% per day. When I'm running with 4G without music, it uses something like 20% per hour. So in theory, you can run for 5 hours on that, but you can also switch the 4G off and get more battery life. But if you add music into that, it's more like 30% per hour. So you can only get like a 3-hour run in with 4G and music. So if you're going for really long runs with podcasts or music or whatever, you may start to run into some battery issues, but honestly, 4G is most of that. So if you download it to your watch, turn off 4G, you'll be completely fine. So battery life on this is certainly daily. I mean, I know some watches last weeks and stuff, but for a smartwatch, the battery life has been very, very good. Moving on to the smartphone app then, which, to be honest, has been very disappointing. It hasn't just changed much in the last few years, like very subtle tweaks here and there. And it's just a poor app. It's just poorly laid out. It has poor features. I don't like Samsung's mobile app really at all. It feels like a major weakness, honestly, of their watches, which is strange because Samsung is so big and they make their version of Android so well. It's strange that that is a really big weakness of theirs. For example, Strava syncing is very, very limited for some reason. So you can sync it to Strava from just the Samsung watch tracking. You don't have to use the Strava app on the watch, which you can get. But no interval data get sent over for some reason. So if you're doing interval training or whatever, or you're doing manual intervals, that won't get sent to Strava. So you have to, I guess, screenshot Samsung Health, which is also kind of ugly on the interval side. And it's just a bit poor. It also quite often logs me out of Strava syncing, which is actually really quite annoying. I don't know why it does that. But literally probably, well, it has been once a week in the past. It's been a bit less recently, but you just regularly have to log back into Strava, which is just a silly thing. I'm just going to show you the intervals here. I was just trying to show you an interval training I did recently. I'm genuinely struggling to find it, even though I know how to use this app. So at the top, you get like your most recent run, right? That's handy. You click into that, you see the most recent run. Brilliant, handy. Below that though, you then go to 1 hour 25 workouts this week. That button allows you to view more workouts. Doesn't really make any sense. You then get a nice list of all your workouts, which is just a big long list. So if I go and find my interval training recently, which I believe is that one there, you can then see the intervals. Here we go, which is just that screen. It's just not very pretty. Like, it's fine, but it's it should just be a real strength of Samsung watches, having really good software. So the fact that the mobile app is pretty terrible and hasn't really improved, especially the sort of thing they can improve after the fact, is honestly been quite disappointing. There's also not really any other third-party syncing with the app. You can't sync it to any other really useful services, and it's quite limited to what it will connect to, which kind of sucks. But back to the watch, and onto what you may have figured out by now is a bit of an elephant in the room, and that is fitness tracking. I'm leaving fitness tracking on a fitness watch till the end, and there's a very good reason for that, because it's a bit of a letdown. I bought this watch for dual band GPS, right? I thought, brilliant, much more accurate GPS. That sounds fantastic. Along with 3 generations, no other heart rate tracker should be a lot better. Both of those things have let me down. So dual band GPS is more accurate, right? You can see from the map, it knows what side of the road you're on. It's better under trees. It's less variable. When I go for a 5K park run, it's normally pretty close to 5K, not perfect. Whereas my partner's, she's still got the Galaxy Watch 4. She will often see 5.3K or 4.8K, like a 500 meter range for park runs. This tends to be close to the 5K mark. But weirdly, before they had dual band GPS in these watches, they used an algorithm which they added after the fact, because I remember for the first year of having my first watch, the Galaxy Watch 4, the tracking was bad. They added an algorithm to basically smooth it all out, similar to what Strava does, and suddenly it was actually quite accurate and I was happy with it. So I thought, brilliant, more accurate GPS, adding that algorithm, happy days. Samsung doesn't use that algorithm with the dual band GPS watches. So what you'll see is, this watch will be able to tell you which side of the road it's on, but it will wiggle more. My wife's watch, the Galaxy Watch 4, the older one, will wiggle less. So if we're running side by side down a road, her watch will be pretty much down the middle of the road. You won't know which side of the road she's on, but it won't wiggle about too much, so it's quite accurate. This, you'll be able to see what side of the road I'm on, but it'll also sometimes be in the field and then back the other side of the road and then back, and it's just jittering about all over the place, which is just a GPS accuracy thing. It just needs an algorithm to smooth it out. But for some reason, Samsung don't use that algorithm on the dual band GPS Galaxy Watch 7, but they do use it on the Watch 4. Very, very strange. Now, to some extent, it makes sense, right? More accurate GPS module. You don't want to smooth it as much artificially with software. Makes sense. So just turn the algorithm down. Don't turn it off, because it's honestly a bit disappointing sometimes, this watch, GPS accuracy wise, particularly if you go into trees and stuff. That's meant to be where dual band shines, but because it's not being filtered very much, the accuracy just isn't good enough, and it's been a real disappointment of this watch. In addition, the heart rate monitoring, it's worse. The heart rate monitoring on this watch is worse than what I had on my Galaxy Watch 4. Which is absolutely incredible. Quite often, I'll be 2K into a run, I'll look at my heart rate while I'm panting heavily, and it'll be like, oh, 120 BPM. My heart rate goes up to 190. I know I'm at 160, 170, and it's calling me 120. It's just inaccurate. Generally speaking, once it locks on to my heart rate, it will stay locked on to my heart rate. There has been occasions where it's just decided that, oh, actually, I know you're sprinting, but your heart rate's going down. But that's fairly rare. Once it's locked on, it tends to be locked on. But genuinely, it's quite rare that it'll be locked on before 1K into my run. So the first 1K is always just wrong heart rate wise, which sucks. Now, overall, I feel like once it's locked on, I think the heart rate tracking is quite accurate. Even if it's not accurate, as long as it's consistent, that's fine. So let's say this watch thinks my max heart rate is about 195. As long as it does the same measurements all the time, that's fine. Other watches might think my max heart rate is 190. Doesn't matter as long as this is consistent to itself, which it mostly seems to be. It's just locking on to that heart rate, which just kind of sucks. And it just, you know, I'll be like rubbing the sensor. I'll move it about on my wrist. I'll tighten my watch strap before every single run. No matter what I do, it just struggles to lock on at first, which is just, it's just disappointing, honestly. I think the heart rate tracking needs to be better on this watch. And one final moan with the fitness tracking of the Galaxy Watch 7 is the readiness score, which was introduced, I believe, with this watch. So the idea is it's a lot like Garmin's body battery type thing, that it gives you a score at the start of every day of how ready you are to exercise or ready you are for your day. 100 would be, 100% charged. Battery is an easier way to say it. And 0 would be, very, very poor. You're absolutely destroyed. Go back to bed. I like the idea of this, but unfortunately with Samsung's version of it, it too heavily relies on the previous day's activity. So what you'll find is it'll measure things like your heart rate and the amount of sleep you had, the quality of your sleep, what your heart rate did during your sleep, all these other things that it measures. Brilliant. That adds up to your readiness score. But based on what you tell it is your expected exercise level, it will then recommend X amount of exercise per day. But if you go under that, it shouts at you. If you go over that, it shouts at you. That makes no sense. I'm a runner, right? I go for runs 2 or 3 days a week. Sometimes when I was marathon training, I'll be going for a very long run on one day, but then I'll rest the next day. That's completely fine. What this watch would do would be shout at me the day after a long run saying, oh, you did way too much yesterday. And the day after that, it'd be shouting at me, you didn't do enough yesterday. It just makes no sense. It's a very flawed system. And that alone made me stop wearing this watch at night because I prefer the comfort of not having it on anyway. But as the readiness score was frustratingly flawed anyway, I just stopped wearing it. So yeah, readiness score is not the best. But other than that though, fitness tracking is not bad on this watch, other than those 3 quite major things. Interval tracking, for example, I really like that. It's really customizable. You can set the time or the distance or whatever you want to do. The interval tracking works really, really well. You can set heart rate zones and stuff. Like, that's fantastic. The general settings when you run as well is quite handy. It's not a simplistic kind of run interface. You can customize exactly what you see when you run in terms of what information you've got in front of you. You can turn always on display on or off. You can tell it to wait for GPS before automatically starting the exercise. And you can turn auto pause on and off, although weirdly not while you're running, which seems a strange omission, but overall that's decent. Also, the auto detection of the workouts is, I guess, like a lot of watches, but it's like black magic. You go for an elliptical rower, and after a few minutes, it's like, oh, hey, you're rowing. Starting tracking. It's like, how do you know that? Or on a treadmill, so, you're running on a treadmill right now. Let's track that. I don't know how it does it. It's black magic, but it's very clever. But obviously, I mainly just manually track my runs to make sure GPS is connected before my run starts. So overall then, the Galaxy Watch 7. Obviously, it's a year old now, but would I recommend this to you? Honestly, I find myself disappointed with the watch overall. It's a fitness watch. It's a smartwatch, but it's a fitness-focused smartwatch, right? And it just lets itself down in many, many ways. For example, there isn't any kind of like running coach or anything like that, along with all the other negatives I've already covered in this video. There's also just not been enough software updates. Like, weirdly, the Watch 4, I guess because it was earlier on in the Samsung fitness smartwatch cycle, there was lots of updates. Every couple of months, there'd be a new update. This has had, in the year I've had it, maybe 2 or 3 updates, maybe. And bear in mind, most of what I've said in this video can be fixed with updates. They could choose to fix most of my moans in this with just software updates, both to the app and to the watch itself. But they just haven't really done anything with it, which is, again, a real shame for a company like Samsung, who's so good at software. I don't know why they're letting their watches fall behind where their phones are at. It's very odd. And honestly, it's a shame because the hardware is fantastic. Just remove the software from it completely. This is a great watch. It's lasted well. It looks good. It's built well. It's got good specs inside it. It never ever lags on me, for example. It always is rock solid. It's a really good watch hardware wise. The software does just let it down. So for me, for the future, I would prefer a Garmin watch for running. I guess that's not a surprise. Garmin's known for having the best fitness tracking, but this should be able to do the sort of things I want to do well enough. But it lets me down. I want better GPS, I want better heart rate tracking, and also intervals. I want those sent through to Strava. Those 3 things alone make me want a Garmin for running. But honestly, for smartwatches, I'd say not much is wrong with this. If you want a smartwatch, you don't care about fitness tracking, particularly other than basic stuff like tracking steps and resting heart rate and real basic stuff that every watch is going to be able to do fine, this is a fantastic smartwatch. The Wear OS experience is fantastic. So rather frustratingly for me, the future is a Garmin while I run and a Samsung watch every other minute of the day, which is not a great solution, but that's the watch that Samsung has built.